Safest place in town.
Yep.
We did good.
Council President, we're ready for everyone to rise.
Okay, guys. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good evening and welcome. The February 13th, 2024 meeting of the Jackson Township Council will now come to order. Councilman Borelli,
Here.
Councilman Bernstein,
Here.
Councilman Chisholm,
Here.
Council Vice President Sargent,
Here.
and Council President Kuhn.
Here.
As clerk of this meeting, I hereby publicly announce that in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been advertised in the manner prescribed by law. Council President, if I may, the proclamation for the Jackson Youth Football and Cheer D8 and D12 cheer team will be presented at the February 27th, 2024 meeting.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue with opening comments from Township Council. Council President Kuhn.
Thank you. Good evening, residents of Jackson. I would like to thank the men and women of the Jackson Police Department for showing up in support of Ordinance 10-24, establishing the position of a public safety director. I'm hoping that all members of the council will show up tonight and support our men and women in blue as they are supporting us. Thank you. After over 5 years of inactivity in the Jackson Township Economic Development Committee, it has met and discussed the future of Jackson's business and commercial landscape. The committee discussed providing local businesses with information and opportunities such as aiding businesses and finding appropriate grants for small business administrations and to guide them in the right direction to obtain PPP loans needed for expansion and growth. The Veterans Committee had a great meeting as well. We are looking to have a Veterans Appreciation Day in June. More details to come as they come in. I have great news that I haven't even told the Jackson Day Committee yet. I have received confirmation from the Board of Education that the Jackson Memorial Band will be available to perform for Jackson Day this September. I met with the Board of Ed and I was able to present tonight's ordinance 1024, no parking on county roads. No parking on county roads and receiving their blessing. This ordinance will be reintroduced, and I will explain why later in the meeting. In regards to Andover Road, that was the only one-way road brought to the attention last meeting. The ordinance was not being enforced. I contacted our Traffic Safety Bureau, and they conducted road studies, which has been completed and sent to the county for their traffic studies as we have. So we should have a final answer by the next meeting on whether we will rescind the ordinance or move forward with enforcing that existing ordinance. I had a meeting at Town Hall last Friday with administration, township engineer, and DPW to discuss the Jackson Police Department parking lot issues. Our business administrator, Mr. Wall, and our engineers informed me that there is a grant money available for the county for projects just like this one. The engineers are working on submitting the plans to the county, and I'll provide an update on more information as it comes in. You'll see a graphic that's up on there. If you can redirect your attention to the screen. For the last 4 months, I have been working closely with the Jackson Police Chief, Traffic Safety Bureau, Township Engineer, and DPW. We are getting to roll out Phase 1, which will be educating residents of the Jackson do's and don'ts of Title 39. Councilman Bernstein, DPW, Jackson Police, as well as myself, will be walking and visiting neighborhoods with flyers that you see up there to inform residents of Title 39. They will also be found at all the township buildings. Phase 2 will be, I have proposed to the business administrator for hiring Class 1s and Class 2s officers, which would be a very cost-efficient way of helping clean up the parking lot issues in our town. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Council Vice President Sargent.
I'm waiving comments at this time.
Thank you. Councilman Borelli.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. I would like to acknowledge the passing of Vincent Rubio, who was a longtime resident of our town. who with his wife Patricia, 54 years, raised a son, Officer Vincent Rubio Jr. Many of you served with him, who recently retired from the Jackson Township Police Department. His dad, Mr. Rubio, worked for Jackson Township as an equipment operator and safety officer and served with distinction in the United States Army during the Vietnam War, earning a Purple Heart. Mr. Rubio, who devoted his time and service to his community and country, is certainly a role model for the young people of today. Rest in peace, sir, and my prayers and condolences to his family. As we may have all heard by now, the Jackson Township School District was forced to borrow over $10 million from the state of New Jersey to cover a budget deficit caused by yearly state aid cuts to suburban school districts like ours. So because of this loan, the State Department of Education is requiring the Jackson School District to be assigned a state monitor who will oversee and can overrule the decisions of the duly elected school board, and whose $160,000 salary and all other expenses we taxpayers will have to pay for. Not a good situation for our schools to be in. So at the next council meeting, with the advice and consent of the council president, I plan on introducing a resolution in support of Assembly Bill A3589, which former Jackson Township Councilman and Assemblyman Alex Sawicki is sponsoring, that will require the state of New Jersey to pay the salary of state monitors assigned to school districts, not the local school districts. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. Councilman Bernstein?
Thank you, Ms. Moss. Before I forget, I meant to thank Ms. Moss by our last couple of meetings. Ms. Moss has been phenomenal at getting the agendas out earlier. Our agenda was out, I think it was Friday by 11 o'clock in the morning publicly. So thank you, Ms. Moss, for all that hard work. Again, thank you everyone for coming out. I just wanted to give a quick update on some of the things that I've had the opportunity and the privilege of doing since our last council meeting a couple weeks ago. About 2.5 weeks ago, I joined Mayor Reyna and President Kuhn by meeting with the county engineers, County Commissioner Sadeghi, to talk about Jackson's growth and ensuring and advocating for Jackson to get our fair share from our county so we can continue with our road improvements, lighting improvements, and anything else that we can possibly get. As I think most residents are aware, the county did give us multiple commitments. The one commitment that the county was comfortable releasing to the public is that they are actively working and pursuing various plans to widen South New Prospect to a three-way road, hopefully over 2024. We also discussed the need for them to look at Whitesville Road, Hope Chapel Road, Cooks Bridge Road, and other Jackson roads. They are actively starting those processes, continuing those processes, and we hope to see 2024 being a year where Jackson's traffic and quality of life continues to go in the right direction. Multiple residents have reached out since, I guess, that news hit the fan about sidewalks, and I'm going to continue to encourage our residents to reach out to the administration. Sidewalks generally fall under administration. Obviously, we can't sidewalk everywhere in town. It's impossible overnight, but to reach out to administration, voice your concerns, voice your safety concerns, and I can tell you that the council and administration very much support and are strong advocates for the safety of all residents. I have the pleasure of serving on the Open Space Committee. Open Space Committee met for the second time. We are currently working on updating our maps so we can know exactly what the town owns for open space and to look into that and see what could be made into parks, what could be left just as it is now. Additionally, since the Open Space Committee met, we've gotten multiple leads that the administration is looking into. Obviously, we wish every lead turned into something tangible, but we continue encouraging you to let your neighbors, let your friends know that Jackson Township is looking for open space, and you never know by speaking to someone in the grocery store what could end up happening and what could end up turning into a beautiful preserved land for eternity. As Council President mentioned, there was an Economic Advisory Committee, which I also serve on with Council President. I did have to leave early, but I was so impressed to see a wonderful a phenomenal, energized group of residents. There was a representative of the planning board on there, representative of the zoning board, and other resident boards who joined together, and looking forward to seeing continued economic growth in Jackson Township. Similarly to Councilman Borelli, I also want to echo something similar, but on a different note. The state recently redid their housing development plan, Assembly Bill A4. As I think our local legislator said, and I've seen throughout the state, all Republicans, from what I understand, voted against it. The legislator, instead of focusing on adding more housing requirements, they should be focusing on better ways to make New Jersey more affordable for all for all residents in New Jersey. I'm looking forward to working through our agenda tonight with all of our residents, and looking forward to everyone having a safe night and a great week.
Thank you. And Councilman Chisholm.
Good evening. Thank you. There we are. Some of you guys might be familiar with the WHO. I'm not talking about Pete Townsend. I'm talking about the World Health Organization. They are currently right now trying to force the United States into a pandemic treaty. If that doesn't concern you, if you don't think that 2020 was a complete disaster, just imagine what happens when the Star Wars bar scene is now in control of all of your drugs. These guys are now going to be able to take away our United States sovereignty and demand that we pay for drugs and take our stockpile. So when our citizens are now hospitalized, we have to give them to third world nations because they demand so. And we're going to be paying for it. So you should demand that our two senators, who do next to nothing for New Jersey, vote no against this, because it is their obligation to defend the United States of America. They have not done a very good job of that. Also, an epic failure, King Philip has decided just yesterday to allow his BPU president to basically raise your utility bills for the average New Jersey resident by $100 per year. Doesn't seem like much, but when you add that to your gas and your groceries and everything else that's going up 5, 7, 8, 20% in the last 2 years, then it might be more of a concern to you. And you might say, well, why do you need all this extra money to enact green initiatives to basically line the pockets of your donors? They are not going to save the planet. They couldn't if they tried. It's rather disgraceful. I just heard that there was a 5-year hiatus in the Economic Development Committee, so I just want to correct that. That's not exactly true. We did have meetings here the last couple of years while I was the president of the, or chair of that committee. And when I sat on the Chamber of Commerce, I was a member of that, and we did have meetings over the last 5 years. So I'm glad to see there may be some traction on that, but just to clear the record, we did have some meetings. On the good news, I did also see we got the $2 million, as council president had admitted and talked to. That's going to go back to our schools. I'm not sure how everybody else is doing, but I hope we're going to use that for math. Our students are totally deficient. It's sad. I just paid an extra $1 at Popeyes because the dude couldn't give me exact change after I gave him exact change. And I just said, it's not worth the $1. You can keep it. I've had that happen 3 times where I had to correct kids on just counting money. Please use that $2 million to teach our children basic math, for the love of God. The best note, though, however, I would have to say, is the Rova Farms Volunteer Work Day. We had several companies working here in the town, donating some time to improve the grounds over there. So I would like to thank the mayor and administrator for helping me set that up, making sure everything ran smoothly. Phil's Tree Service, K&L Tree Experts, Aspen Tree Experts, our Department of Public Works, who was also out there, and the kids at the JTV team. Great job. Thank you to all that helped out. And we certainly look forward to having some more good news going on at that park this year. After that, thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consideration ordinance, public hearing, and final consideration. This is the second reading of ordinance 02-24, entitled An Ordinance of the Township Council, Township of Jackson, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 3-149 of the Township Administrative Code to provide for an additional alternate member of the Jackson Township Municipal Utility Authority. This ordinance was introduced on January 23rd, 2024. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion?
Second.
Roll call.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. If any member of the public has any comments to make, please address council at the microphone and state your name and address clearly for the record. You will have 5 minutes and may only speak once.
Seeing no one come forward, and make a motion to close public session?
Second.
Thank you.
Roll call.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the third reading of ordinance 02-24, entitled An Ordinance of the Township Council, Township of Jackson, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 3-149 of the Township Administrative Code to provide for an additional alternate member of the Jackson Township Municipal Utility Authority. I need a motion to adopt on third and final reading and advertise according to law.
Motion?
Second.
Councilman Borelli?
No.
Councilman Bernstein?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Council Vice President Sargent?
Yes.
And Council President Kuhn.
Yes.
This is the second reading of ordinance 03-24 entitled an ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending ordinance number 36-23, establishing the salary range for all the various officials and employees of the township for the year 2024 and thereafter. This ordinance was introduced on January 23rd, 2024. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If any member of the public has any comments to make, please address the council at the microphone and state your name and address clearly for the record. You will have 5 minutes and may only speak once.
Seeing no one come forward, make a motion to close public session?
Second.
Roll
All in
call.
favor?
Aye.
This is the third reading of ordinance 03-24 entitled an ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending ordinance number 36-23, establishing the salary range for all the various officials and employees of the township for the year 2024 and thereafter. I need a motion to adopt on third and final reading and advertise according to law.
Motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Bernstein?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Council Vice President Sargent?
Yes.
And Council President Kuhn.
Yes.
This is the second reading of ordinance 04-24 entitled an ordinance of the Township Council, Township of Jackson, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 163 of the Township Code of the Township of Jackson entitled Construction Containers. This ordinance was introduced on January 23rd, 2024. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion?
Second.
Roll
All in
call.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If any member of the public has any comments to make, please address the council at the microphone and state your name and address clearly for the record. You will have 5 minutes and may only speak once.
Seeing no one come forward, make a motion to close public session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the third reading of ordinance 04-24 entitled an ordinance of the Township Council, Township of Jackson, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 163 of the Township Code of the Township of Jackson entitled Construction Containers. I need a motion to adopt on third and final reading and advertise according to law.
Motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Bernstein?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Council Vice President Sargent?
Yes.
And Council President Kuhn.
Yes.
Ordinance's first reading. Council President Kuhn, are there any comments regarding ordinance 06-24?
Yes. This ordinance is a collaboration between administration, some members of council, the SOA, the PBA, to clean up internal issues that have been brought to my attention and I've shared with my fellow council members. Also, after consideration, this ordinance has been updated to require the candidate to have a minimum of 20 years of law enforcement experience and a sworn police officer that shall have a ranking of sergeant or above. Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 06-24 entitled an ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 3 of the Administrative Code of the Township of Jackson, establishing the position of Director of the Department of Public Safety. I need a motion to approve ordinance 06-24 on first reading and to authorize the notice and approval and public hearing to be held on February 27th, 2024. Motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Borelli?
Clerk Moss, I want to first acknowledge many of our police officers who are in the audience, and I want to thank you so much for your service. We can't thank you enough. The residents and all of us up here. At this time, I'm going to vote no on ordinance 06-24 for creating another position in our town, which could pay up to $200,000 a year with full-time benefits. And I want to explain why, because it's such an important issue, and share my statement with all of you. I just think we should be fiscally responsible and conservative here. The public safety director position, from which I've researched, have learned about, is limited in what they can do. And the courts and state legislature have acknowledged the civilian nature of the director position. They would be performing the same administrative duties, from what I gather, as the chief already does. So my position is, why create the position then? The chief would still run the day-to-day activities of the police department. And I've heard the public safety director position was tried before in our town, and it didn't work. And thankfully, and because of all of you working together, we live in one of the safest towns around, and we were very blessed for that. I haven't heard how adding specifically this position would better benefit our fellow township residents. We already have a police chief, which seems to have worked out well over the years. And there's a thing as too many chiefs, and there's no pun intended when I say that, which is, isn't always a good thing for an organization. This may cause more problems than it solves. I've expressed that I wish we could table this ordinance to allow for more time for leaders and officers, including all of you in the Jackson Township Police Department, to meet and discuss and maybe hash out any disagreements and concerns you have, along with the township administration, and for all to better understand the position of public safety director position and what it would entail. I just feel that whatever differences may be going on within the ranks of the police department should be handled from within your organization, and not decided at the governing body level. In my time on the township council, I've always supported the men and women of the JTPD. Proud of all of you. We all are, which I've always liked to say, you guys are second to none in the state of New Jersey, and I have always voted for the resources for you officers to do the jobs that you do effectively and keep our town safe and secure 24/7. I will continually to wholeheartedly support the men and women in blue. Thank you for your time.
By voting
Take
no?
care. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Bernstein,
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm.
So I would like to echo Councilman Borelli's thoughts on a few of those things, especially, thanking all the officers for what they do. My concern here has been really about the rush to push this through. While there are some serious issues that need to be discussed, if this is a good idea now, it will be a good idea in 2 weeks or in 2 months. There is really no reason to push this through. I don't like the way it is currently written. It appears there are going to be some lawsuits filed if this is the case. We did actually receive from the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs and Police a letter today saying that some of the wording in the bill
I would like
is actually...
our attorney to please respond to the comment that you just made.
Oh, should I finish my comment, or you're going to have him
I
make
just
the
want
comment?
to,
I
if you
mean-
could address it, because it's an inaccurate comment. And you obviously
That
didn't
we
read the
didn't- that
ordinance
we
that's in
didn't-
front of
that we
you. It's been
didn't
updated.
We didn't get a letter today?
Oh, no, but I've corrected it and it's been updated and you didn't read your paperwork.
You actually amended the legislation?
Yes, sir, we
Before
did.
the meeting after 3 o'clock this afternoon and
Yes,
didn't
sir.
inform anybody?
Yes,
You didn't
Yes, I
inform
did.
me that you changed this wording in this
you were
thing now,
informed by it being
since
on
after
your
3
desk.
o'clock.
Yes, sir. I did.
No.
I did.
Okay, that's good. So if we've rewritten that, so then still, I'm just going to have to vote no because we have not had time. If you rewrote legislation this afternoon after 3 o'clock, that's kind of ridiculous. However, it is still a rush. There are still some things that are going on, and, creating another salary. If this is so important, quite frankly, and we're going to add another position for $200,000, I much rather would see that this maybe goes on the ballot. Maybe we put it up in November and let the people decide it's such an important position rather than rushing to judgment. We don't need to show that we are acting just to do something, just to be busy. That is not the goal of this body. And quite frankly, there's enough rules on the books. We don't enforce the laws that we have, whether it's at the local, state, or federal level. If we were doing that, we would not need to be creating new positions, new money, more legislation, and more ordinances. That is not a Republican value, and I'm going to, at the moment, until things are changed, I'm going to vote no the way it was presented to me.
Thank you. Council Vice President Sargent.
Good evening. So as I was home nursing a massive throat infection for 10 days, I had a lot of time to think about this. And the mayor, the council president, none of the council members influence how I vote. I vote based on what I feel is the right thing to do. And I vote. Let me just say that I was elected to vote the way that I feel like is the right thing to do. And based on all of the information that I've gathered as I'm home, and also making phone calls like that you can't even believe. At this time, I'm voting yes to this position. This position is not to take away from anything from anybody that's working in the police department. This position is to facilitate anything that needs to be facilitated. Having said that, again, I vote yes proudly. Thank you.
Thank you. And Council President Kuhn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Council President Kuhn, are there any comments regarding ordinance 07-24?
Yes, Councilman Bernstein, would you please comment?
Thank you, President Kuhn. This ordinance is an ordinance which is just to fix up a current ordinance and give really our department a stronger way of enforcing it. It's an ordinance that would prevent people from parking at some of the islands in some of the neighborhoods that unfortunately people sometimes do park on. And the current fee system is either ignored or sometimes the cars are abandoned after people leave. This would give the department the ability to tow them. And hopefully then I think we have a commitment from administration. The signs will be updated over there to reflect that. And we can hopefully enforce this ordinance going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 07-24, entitled An Ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 412-6 of the Township Code entitled Trespassing on Public Property, Violations and Penalties. I need a motion to approve ordinance 07-24 on first reading and to authorize a notice of approval and public hearing to be held on February 27th, 2024. Motion, please.
Second,
Councilman Borelli,
yes.
Councilman Bernstein,
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm,
Yes.
Council Vice President Sargent,
Yes.
and Council President Kuhn.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I would just like to say that this is a very important ordinance. There's a lot of our small neighborhoods that have abandoned vehicles that are parked in them. So if you're watching this, I would suggest that you start moving them because we are going to start cleaning up our streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Kuhn, are there any comments regarding ordinance 08-24?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Ordinance 08-24, entitled An Ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, rezoning Block 21401, Lot 15, from R-3 to NC. I need a motion to approve ordinance 08-24 on first reading and to authorize the notice of approval and public hearing to be held on February 27th, 2024.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Bernstein?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Council Vice President Sargent?
Yes.
And Council President Kuhn.
Yes.
Thank you. Council President Kuhn, are there any comments regarding ordinance 09-24?
Yes, there are. Okay, so this is regarding landlord registration. We raised the fee from $100 to $125. We've also moved registration to be conducted between January 1st through January 31st. Therefore, if it's not registered, you won't have a fine enforced. What was happening is our courts, I met with our judge, and he was having, at some of the court hearings, 150 people coming in because a landlord registration was just scattered throughout the whole calendar year. So now we're going to make it for within the first month. So that way, everybody that is a landlord can register your property and not get these violations. And it will be able to be done online, which we are trying to move everything online. So that's a huge improvement. Thank you for the business administrator for helping work with us to get that process.
Mr. Kuhn, did you mention a $25 increase on that?
Yes, I did.
I must have missed that piece. Can you tell me what the purpose is of the extra $25?
Just, it hasn't been raised in a long time, and I think that all of the clerks and everything that are in the building department, we were looking to raise salaries and stuff like that, and we thought that the landlord should also pay a little bit and contribute to the hard work that they do in the building department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 09-24, entitled Ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 245 entitled Landlord Registration and Responsibilities of the Township Code. I need a motion to approve ordinance 09-24 on first reading and to authorize the notice of approval and public hearing to be held on February 27th, 2024.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Bernstein?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Council Vice President Sargent?
Yes.
And Council President Kuhn.
Yes.
Thank you. Council President Kuhn, are there any comments regarding ordinance 10-24?
Yes, this is for the county. Okay, they have it up. So this is a reintroduction. This was introduced at the last meeting and meeting with our Traffic Safety Bureau and making, other conversations with council members. We had thought that it was the main problem, and actually I was driving around in the morning during school hours. And if we didn't add, I added standing to here. So in essence, you cannot park a car and let it idle, unfortunately, at the bus stop. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash on this, but it's unsafe. I spoke with traffic safety, and if you could see when I had the clerk, when we sent this to the public, I made sure that his letter, Officer Lasco's letter, was included in that. People can't make rights or lefts, but I made sure with the attorney's guidance, the buses will be allowed to park on these county roads to pick up your children, and that so you guys, when you're going to work, can make a right and a left and have nothing obstructing your view. I'm super excited about this, and we also added 2 permits for any properties that are adjacent to the parking area that you can't park in. I'm thinking, I know that it looks a little crazy, but once we have everything painted and we have the stop bars and the signage out, I'm hoping that the neighborhoods are a lot more safer for your kids to get on the buses and to get off the buses. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? No? Ordinance 10-24 entitled Ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 103 of the Township Code of the Township of Jackson, prohibiting parking, stopping, or standing within 50 feet of intersections at county roadways and permitting permit parking only between 51 feet and 100 feet from said intersections. I need a motion to approve ordinance 10-24 on first reading and to authorize the notice of approval and public hearing to be held on February 27, 2024.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Bernstein?
Yes, and thank you, Council President Kuhn and everyone else in the business administration for fixing it up and making it resolve, hopefully, the issues that we needed to resolve.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Council Vice President Sargent?
Yes.
And Council President Kuhn.
Yes.
Thank you. Move on to bills and claims. I need a motion to approve or hold the bills and claims. I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Borelli?
I have to abstain on vendor numbers DEL 01, EYE 01, NJS 13, RUT 04, STA 01, STA 54, and STA 76. Yes to the rest of them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilman Bernstein?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Abstain on COM 44 and RUT 04. Yes to the rest.
Thank you. Council Vice President Sargent?
Yes.
And Council President Kuhn.
I'm going to abstain from RCS 02. Yes to the rest.
Thank you. Council President, if I may, before the motion to approve the consent agenda resolution R107-24 and R109-24 has been pulled.
I also would like to table Resolution 126-24.
Okay. Resolution consent agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Borelli?
Yeah, I think maybe I have a question for Administrator Wall regarding Resolution R10-24, RoboFarms Wetland Survey. Was that done already? I think funding was voted on years ago before I think any of us joined the council.
Thank you for your question,
Thanks.
Councilman. I held a conference call with T&M engineers who had done prior work on that topic about 3 years ago or so, and also with Morgan engineers to make sure that their efforts dovetailed. So we were able to have a proper application that went to the state as far as the regulations and the permitting that was required.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Is it yes to the rest? Yes to all, Councilman?
I have to abstain on Resolution R 125-24, and Resolution 126-24 was tabled. That was the
Yes.
zoning board appointments? Okay. Yes to the rest on there, just abstain on that one.
R 125-24?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Councilman Bernstein?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Council Vice President Sargent?
Yes.
And Council President Kuhn? Thank you.
Yes.
Move on to public comments on any topic. At this time, if any member of the public has any comments to make, please address council at the microphone and state your name and address clearly for the record.
Come up.
You will have 5 minutes and may only speak once.
I'm going to let Sergeant Rodriguez please speak first. Chief, you will be next.
Just want to make sure this is on. Okay. For those who don't know me, I am Sergeant John Rodriguez, and I represent the Superior Officers Association of PBA 168. I will try to be brief, given the weather and the volume of interested parties in the room. But first, I would like to thank Mayor Reyna, who could not be here tonight, and his administration for their ongoing and long-term commitment to the growth and development of our police department. Madam Council President, Councilman Bernstein, Councilman Sargent, and Councilman Chisholm and Borelli. We thank you for hearing and being receptive to the current needs of the agency, and by extension, the best interests of the residents of the Jackson Township, whom we proudly serve. I first wish to speak on the issue of the position of a public safety director and why we, as a union, support the township's decision to present this ordinance. Let me begin by stating this is not a personal issue or attack. I have had many respectful disagreements with Chief Coons, but the leadership of the agency has been in disarray and decline for a substantial portion of Chief Coons' tenure, much to the detriment of the order and function of the agency. As a few examples, there have been no agency staff meetings since August of 2015. Even among command staff, there is minimal communication and one-on-one meetings between captains and the chief with different direction given on the same issues. I had a conversation with a captain who shall remain nameless only 6 weeks ago, who implored me to do whatever I could to hold the chief accountable as they struggled with personnel assignments, given unfulfilled vacancies for both supervisory positions and patrol level assignments. In these instances, the chief failed to advocate for or even request several still unfulfilled promotable positions from retirements, leading to unexpected possible shift assignment changes for staff. As for the patrol level positions, the chief failed to hire 4 full-time police officers that were appropriately and graciously offered by the administration in the last calendar year alone. As a former detective who was involved in the hiring and background process, I can say the manner in which it has been handled in the previous few years is nothing short of disheartening. And if the chief would like to assert that this was a function of the civil service exam results failing to yield adequate applicants, I would say that he has had no problem circumventing the civil service list, demonstrating a willingness to do so in the recent past. This affords an opportunity to recruit individuals from outside the civil service list who may have special skills, such as bilingual status, or who better reflect the demographics of the increasingly diverse community which we serve. Even a modicum of effort from the chief to establish recruitment protocols would have been warmly received, as opposed to watching a growth opportunity slip through our fingers. As the son of a Cuban immigrant, I can say we do a disservice to the exponentially increasing Latino population in town, and there has been zero direction or even suggestion of concern from the chief on this matter. When we have 1 to 2 persons within the entire agency who speak any Spanish, none of which are court interpreter certified, which is the standard established by the prosecutor's office to interview a suspect, we disenfranchise victims who know that if they call to report a crime, no one who responds is even going to be able to understand the words coming out of their mouth. The chief has failed to advocate effectively to this administration the needs of the agency. And in his absence as a leader, the PBA and SOA have filled in to serve as an intermediary, ensuring the staffing and equipment needs of the agency are being met. Not only has the chief failed to advocate for the agency, but I and President Hemba have both personally had conversations with the chief regarding how we can advocate for the growth and development of the agency, during which he provided his wishes for a specific number of hires and promotions. only to later change his mind after obtaining township support, choosing to decline the growth he had just asked us to advocate for. The chief's actions have turned from apathy to counterproductive, and he does so without explanation or remorse. The agency has no known formal growth plan, unless the chief has been hiding it in his desk for 16 years and waiting until tonight to present it. In fact, when such a document was presented to the township approximately 10 years ago by previous union leadership, they were chastised, and discipline was threatened against them by Chief Coons. As a union, we seek to stop this dysfunctional cycle of fulfilling tasks that should be the purview of the chief, but instead fall on the union to complete, or the agency suffers. And we thank the township for taking steps to address our concerns. For the dedicated and hardworking officers who are currently employed by JPD, there is no formal or structured career development plan, nor is there any meaningful review. Instead, supervisors are mandated to complete semi-annual evaluations, which are a requirement for our accredited status. I have personally included recommendations for training and career development for the officers on my squad and have never received any feedback or even acknowledgement on this issue. The agency should have a core curriculum of ongoing training courses that all receive in a structured manner to further both each of the individual's interests and the needs of the department. No such protocols exist, and the union have been asking for this for well over a decade. I could continue at length, but as time is limited, I want to address two other items of concern. I have rightfully been made aware of residents having pause over the salary figure corresponding to the public safety director, and it is indeed a significant salary. But I might add, it still remains nearly $50,000 less than the chief's salary, whom the public safety director will be holding accountable. It is worth noting at this point that as a collective union, we support and appreciate the township's agreement to maintain the position of chief of police, as this position alone should prevail as PD leadership long-term, with either a Chief Coons who performs adequately the functions of his office, or a new chief who is willing to do so down the road. As a union, we would like to make a suggestion to the township when filling the PSD position that they consider utilizing the immense talent pool that already exists within the agency. Not only will this serve to have someone who is already intimately aware of the concerns and issues within the agency, but further saves the township a significant portion of the salary figure. The township would instead only have to increase the salary budget by the difference in salary, and with the parameters established by the ordinance, this would total $29,000 instead of $200K plus benefits. With costs minimized, opposition to this by Chief Coons is really just opposition to accountability. Perhaps such a measure would alleviate the draconian cuts the chief has recently threatened if this ordinance passes. I would now like to speak about some of the media articles that have been published in recent days. President Hemba, who I'm sure will speak later, and I have both received overwhelming support and encouragement from those we represent, as you can see in the room today. As a result, we have issued statements to the Lakewood Scoop regarding our support of the township's ordinance, again, specifically as the township has committed to maintaining the position of chief of police. This article and the article outlining the disgraceful bully tactics the chief has employed in recent days are both factual and represent the destabilization of the work environment the chief has fostered in the wake of this. And we hope to move forward with providing ever-improving service to the residents of Jackson Township. The article that was published regarding Lieutenant Olajar's, retired Lieutenant Olajar's, is not endorsed by PBA 168 and contains factual errors, including identifying that incident as the impetus for this ordinance. This is not true, and a distraction from the greater issue at hand, which is the inability of the agency to progress as it is currently managed. As it relates to what did or didn't happen regarding discipline for this matter, it is a direct reflection on Chief Coons, as this incident occurred within the confines of the building he manages, and he alone ultimately made the recommendations for what, if any, discipline should have been levied. As such, I suggest you direct any questions to him. Furthermore, to suggest that this is any reflection on Mayor Reyna and his administration is an even greater farce and purely an attempt to damage him politically, as civilian employees are not held to the standards of police officers. And if one wasn't being disciplined, how could the other be without claiming bias? But again, the investigation of this incident, the details of what transpired, and any delays in reporting are for the chief to answer and not pertinent to this ordinance other than as a reflection of the chief's management abilities. The union wishes all its retired members well as they move forward beyond their tenure with the agency. Lastly, I would like to thank the large contingent of PBA and SOA members who are here tonight to support President Hemba and myself and no one else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant. Chief, would you please come up? Would you like to come up to the microphone, Chief? Please come up.
Good evening, Chief Matthew Kunz, Jackson Township Police Department. Hopeful I'll get the same courtesy of some latitude on the time. As that
Absolutely, sir.
That was a lot to unpack, and I did my best to take notes. So thank you, Sergeant Rodriguez and Officer Henba, for your representations. I will say some are fair and some are completely off base.
I'm
And
sorry, did you say that you were taking notes?
I was trying to take notes as he spoke so I could address the comments.
Okay, because we have it on tape.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, but this is in real time, sir. So with that said, I will express my disappointment in the inaccuracy of a great number of the remarks by Sergeant Rodriguez. First, let's speak on hiring. So last year, with the assent of the mayor, his budget, the appropriate authority, the business administrator, and the governing body, we were generally authorized to hire 8 police officers. Our first obligation is to explore the civil service list. That is our absolute duty as a civil service agency to explore that list for suitable candidates, which we did, and we did with vigor. We were unable to identify sufficient number of suitable candidates from that list, which I would note that to date, we're still fighting with civil service to close out and recertify. So what we did was we pivoted and we went to what is known as the alternate route program. We hired one gentleman in the spring, and we've hired several additional since using that program with the goal that we share of hiring the maximum number of police officers as allowed by the township and codified under personnel positions, which currently state we can hire up to 110 officers from top to bottom. Today, we sit at 108. We would be at that 110, but for the 2 officers we lost recently. We lost one in the fall at the beginning of academy training, and we had a resignation just 2 weeks ago. So we were actually at our maximum authorized strength. That said, through the budgetary process, and as some of the administration is certain to know, we've requested to hire 10 more officers this year so we can grow the department commensurate with the growth of the township. So to say that we're doing nothing on hiring is actually inaccurate at best. We have also advertised for hiring in the recent past, and we have sent officers to recruitment events, both at the Waretown EMS Academy, at a college event, and we have another one coming up in about a month, I believe, at Keene University. So our hiring efforts are active, they are ongoing, and we are absolutely dedicated to identifying the absolute best candidates for this township. Where we find a candidate has an unsuitable background, we pass on that because, as we say in the industry, if you hire a bad candidate, you're hiring a 30-year problem employee. We want nothing but the best for this township, so we go to great lengths in our background process. Currently, I believe it is 4 positions on the civil service list that, in concert with our personnel officer, we are fighting to remove from consideration for various negative findings in their backgrounds. Criminal history, domestic violence occurrences, theft, dishonesty. We need to close out that old list and remove these candidates so we can get the new certified list. This is our duty, and it moves at the speed of government. Unfortunately, it is not fast food. Concurrently, we have 4 new Class 2 special police officers that are in training. And if we identify them as suitable candidates to move up to full-time, we can advance them to full-time vacant positions as well to get us to our 110, or if our ordinances expand our table of organization beyond that. So we have a multitude of areas in which we are moving to keep our hiring current. I would note that despite the commentary of our lack of growth and planning, under adverse budget conditions in the last several years, working with the mayor, working with the administration, we've grown our department from some 90 officers up to 110. That's a substantial growth in numbers and percentage in the recent years. That's a body of work that was accomplished only but for the police department working with the administration. And again, every annual budgetary submission that the governing body has received is clearly reflective of those demands to continue to grow the department commensurate with the growth of the township. I can point to a recent conversation with Councilman Bernstein where we discussed the industry standard calculation of 2.2 officers per 1,000 residents, which would suggest that we should be at 130 officers, contrary to the 110 we're authorized. Councilman Bernstein bested me by saying, in his estimate, we're growing faster than the census data is projecting. Therefore, we should be on a trajectory to aim for even more than 130 officers. And in a similar conversation with Council President Kuhn, she asked, okay, if we're at 110 and we go to 130, where would you put them? And without hesitation, we would have put 12 into the patrol division. We would have added to our services division, to our traffic safety supervision, detective bureau. We could instantly accommodate that number of staff. But another part of the calculation, it's not a Jackson problem or an Ocean County problem or a New Jersey problem. Hiring in law enforcement in the last several years has been extremely problematic, in part due to the maligning of police, the defund the police movement, the negative media coverage, and the appearance that going into law enforcement is perhaps less attractive now than it was. Without people stopping to really take a hard look, Ocean County, this area, actually law enforcement is great. I know our staff has afforded a tremendous contract. The terms and conditions of their employment are most favorable, again, and that's for the work of the governing body and the collective bargaining units. So I was to meet recently again with Jeff and John. I was ghosted on that, but I think part of it is that there's this uncomfortable climate that has developed in the police department because of the rancor discussion of this public safety director position. But I've maintained an open door with the PBA and SOA, and admittedly, and I'm sure if Jeff were to speak, he would say that our personal and working relationship is the best between the department and the union that it has been in many, many years. And that is for our professionalism, our mutual respect, and the ability to separate business from personalities. And I'm proud of our half of that as a department. As far as career development program, our trainings cadre does look to ensure that our staff has a diverse training beyond the Attorney General mandated minimums. We seek to have various disciplines such as advanced crash investigation, et cetera, for everybody, not just the specialists. There are 5 core areas that we look to expand everybody's training. Since COVID, that has also been extremely difficult, where in-person training was canceled. The change in the breathalyzer device across the state, we weren't afforded sufficient spots to train our staff for the conversion. We face a lot of challenges, but we continue to work at it, and I thought we work at it together. Again, just in no particular order, responding to the comments of Sergeant Rodriguez, we've seen the failed experiment of promoting a low-level employee from within the police department to oversee it. It occurred in 1988, and it was a sergeant promoted to public safety director, and the result was so chaotic that in short order, the governing body asked that public safety director to separate themselves from service. I would dispute the statement that threats have been made. There's been no threats. There's been discussion as to how this impacts the department, how it might impact us budgetarily. So the number 200,000 continues to come up. Well, obviously, it doesn't occur in a vacuum. I work with the administration on our budget. I've had many meetings recently in the finance office, conference calls with the BA, with the CFO, and the consensus is it's a very tight year, in large part due to the significant pay increases that our union personnel saw. So now, in order for the township to continue to do what it does every year and craft a responsible budget, that money has to come from somewhere. I went back and I sharpened my pencil and I realized a bunch of cuts that I think we can get away with in order to work with the administration to stay within the budget, but keep moving forward. So there certainly was talk that this could lead to cuts, and there was talk that a public safety director may come in and seek to justify their existence by insisting that we're living well within our means and well within our budget, and they might seek to drive cuts as well. Those are objective discussions. Those are rational discussions based on budgetary experience. They are in no way threat. And I understand that the large contingent here represented staff that were both for and against the creation of a public safety director. It's been brought to me, and I'll go to my prepared comments, if I may, but it's been brought to me by many staff that they feel stifled or suppressed in expressing their opinions, which again speaks to this is creating an uncomfortable climate in the police department. I think I covered all the notes that I was able to garner from Sergeant Rodriguez's comments, but I would say we all have the same interests in mind. That would be the growth and success of our department. And whether I'm a flawed human being or not, I always believe that the business of the department, such as the business of the township, belongs at a conference table, not in the uncomfortable public forum where it's akin to airing dirty laundry. So I gave a test read of my prepared remarks, and I went back and I crossed out a lot to try and respect this 5-minute timer. But if I'm a little over, I hope you give me a little bit of latitude on it, because these are all very important discussions. So having responded to those comments, hopefully reasonably so, good evening, Madam Clerk. Again, for the record, Chief Matthew Kunis, Chief of Department,
Sir.
Jackson Township Police Department. And I'm also here as a homeowner, a taxpayer, and a 56-year resident of the township. Good evening again, members of the governing body and township administration. I come before you this evening with a number of concerns, and I do so with some trepidation. As I have always believed, the business of running the township is best conducted professionally at a conference table, not in a public forum such as this. Kindly note, it is not my intention to be adversarial, but rather collaborative, as we all share responsibility in the governance of the township and its departments. Several matters do loom large tonight, those being the proposed creation of a public safety director, a prior disciplinary matter, and the impact of all of this on the good men and women of the Jackson Police Department. Again, my intention is to promote this responsible sharing of information and to collaborate as far as is practicable while maintaining the integrity and decorum each matter is deserving of. Since the recent release of Ordinance 06-24 is drafted, local digital media has exploded with rampant misinformation, attacks on all persons even remotely related to the matter, and a pretextual narrative has been created to justify an unjustifiable position. It is appalling that anonymous authors find it acceptable not only to publish false statements, but also that they would so cavalierly sully the names and character of others in pursuit of promoting Ordinance 06-24 as somehow legitimate, when we all know the creation of a public safety director is dubious at best. If this proposition were indeed so noble, there would be no need for the media and character attacks being executed in support of it. I crossed this part out, but I want to bring it up because I think it's important and it speaks to character. I would note that I did contact more than one publisher and cite my concern that distributing articles which report the mayor has an agenda or does not always find himself in agreement with me did not serve the interests of the township, and I ask they consider redacting them. Also of note is that I have not asked for any publication or storyline regarding the instant matter, as again, I believe that not to be in the public interest and contrary to my personal belief that business matters should be handled privately. On collaboration, the two liaisons to my office in the Jackson Police Department, Council President Jen Kuhn and Councilman Morty Bernstein. It has been my perspective that we had previously laid the foundation for a productive working relationship. Meeting on traffic concerns, as you've cited, dating back to last year, our time was productive as well as constructive. While not the focus of those early meetings, late last year, we were able to touch upon such important topics as hiring and police department staffing. An industry formulation for calculating the appropriate level of staffing was discussed, a number of 130 police officers being the proposed staffing level. I see you've reflected that for our agency and our township to aspire to, given our population growth and expansive geography. Deployment of such additional personnel was also discussed, again, as a sidebar to the traffic concerns then at hand. Entering 2024, as the named council members were appointed as liaisons, we also began to share timely information regarding public safety matters. I have learned secondhand that the two liaisons met with some members of the local bargaining unit, a byproduct that meeting said to be operational concerns and a need for a public safety director. To date, information regarding the process for evoking that so-called need remains specious, and with regret, I report that many other members of that same bargaining unit have expressed to myself and others their disdain with both the process and the outcome. The point to be made here is that the police department liaisons met with some department staff, but subsequently did not meet with the department head to confirm or dispel some or all of the information being shared. This would appear to be a deficiency in our process and of particular import as the meeting has been cited in part as a predicate justification for the rush to install a public safety director. Council President Kuhn, I note objectively that when you have come into your council position and this liaison position with an apparent zeal to move quickly where you identify work to be done. That is, of course, laudable, particularly in government. Having said this, I also suspect that you wish to proceed in the most informed and judicious manner, to include having performed all the necessary due diligence regarding this or any other matter. Likewise, in law enforcement and the tenets of management, there is a guiding expression which simply stated as facts before acts. All of that said, I believe that in the interest of all due diligence and fact-finding which ought to be afforded such an impactful decision as the expensive creation of another police department administrator, we should meet to confirm or dispel the purported information being bandied about. As you are aware, I have previously requested such a meeting, but regrettably, our schedules have not yet aligned. In the interim, I have shared relevant information by way of two documents which provide a competent overview of the police chief and public safety director positions. And I respectfully repeat my request for a meeting and professional discussion regarding the instant matters. As for the actual public safety director position, my reading of the draft ordinance reveals it to be in conflict with the statutory law as to duties reserved for the chief of police. I would continue to suggest that rather than create another $200,000 administration position for the police department, said monies would be better spent on the hiring of additional police officers. In my estimation, 3 police officers could be hired, thus providing a 5% increase in our current patrol coverage of the township. With respect to the inappropriate public and media commentary on a confidential personnel matter, I can certify that from what I have observed, the media commentary and the commentary from Sergeant Rodriguez is wrought with terribly false and damaging information. All personnel matters are conducted with the strict confidence they are deserving of, and any past or present matters which may have been reviewed cannot and will not be discussed by my office in public. I would only indicate that with respect to a recent matter which has been the subject of false public commentary, I have requested the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office to review it, to ensure that all the actions taken by the police department and the township administration have been justified, legal, and proper. As for the men and women of the Jackson Police Department, I present my concern for their safety and well-being. Law enforcement is a notable yet dangerous profession. In order to perform their duties safely and effectively, police officers should be physically fit, well-rested, and of clear mind. Failure to be prepared for duty can and may result in poor judgment, lack of situational awareness, or deadly errors. The current proposal to install a public safety director has had a negative effect on the staff of the police department and its personnel, leading to divisive, interpersonal, and political disputes, as well as creating a systemic, unhealthy distraction. Officers are spending time debating the merits of such a position and carrying those concerns into the field. This is wholly inappropriate and unhealthy, as our staff of sworn personnel should be reporting for and carrying out their duty assignments without the encumbrance of concerns such as the impact of this position on their agency. For historical reference, this same experiment was initiated here in 1988 and did not go well. In short order, the unions protested vociferously, and the director was shown the door by the governing body. If we do not know our history, we are doomed to repeat it. Another barometer for the support or lack of support for this measure is the hyper-polarized digital media response to this proposal. Certainly, were this a more agreeable position, there would not be the viral outcry regarding it. It is for all of those reasons, in addition to those previously stated, that I respectfully suggest that this ordinance be tabled and we convene a liaisons meeting to distinguish between fact, folly, and truly actionable items, all in the best interest of the safety and well-being of our police officers. I truly care for their welfare and trust that you do as well. Thank you for the opportunity to express these critical concerns, and I will look forward to continuing our collaborative working relationship.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Officer Hemba, would you like to come up? Thank you. I think okay, yes, sir, come on.
Retired Captain John Seidler, Jackson PD, also retired SOA president. I would ask for the council and the clerk's forbearance on giving my street address. Because of my job, I still run into people in the grocery store.
No reason.
I would just ask, I've heard from council that you've all talked to people in the police department about this issue. I would just ask if anybody's reached out to retired command staff like myself, retired public safety director, any supervisors or command staff regarding any of these issues, because I know I haven't gotten a telephone call. So I know when you're doing this kind of thing, you should do your due diligence and get the most information that you can. So I'm just wondering why.
I can answer that for you. So the men and women in blue that are current employed with the Jackson Township Police Department that are standing behind you, yes, I did do my diligence, as well as Councilman Bernstein. I did speak to them. There is no reason that I would call a retired officer respectfully, and I mean that with utmost respect, to ask what's going on in the current department and if a public safety director is needed or required. But you would go to the men and women that are currently employed.
But
Thank
certainly,
you.
there's a history of things that have gone on that may play into a lot of the decisions that you need to make. So that's.
So
my only
I just
question.
want to add on, I never met you before, but I'm more than happy if you want to leave your business card or you want to send me an email. I'm more than happy to hear your perspective, but I'm going to make my decision on the people who are currently in the department. And I've spoken to over half the department, and that's why I made the vote that I made.
And yes, I'd be willing to speak with you, but I will go with the current
I understand
department.
that and I respect that. And
And again, I just want to point out, I consider the chief a personal friend. out of the entire council here, and I will always consider the chief a personal friend. When I took an oath, my oath was to serve the residents of the town and to do my due diligence. I did my due diligence, and that's why I voted the way I voted tonight. But I'm more than happy to take your business card, send me an email, and I'm more than happy to hear what you have to say.
I understand that. I
Thank
think
you.
there are people that might be able to shed some light on some things that you should maybe take into account when
I
you
think
make.
we're all open to be more informed.
Yes, thank
all.
you, sir.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night. Get home safe.
Captain, I don't want to speak over, and you did have time left, so I didn't want to shout over you. But yes, I did actually speak to several current and retired staff, but I would be happy to speak with you after the meeting as well and get your number. I did not have it, sorry.
That's quite all right, sir. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
sir.
Hey, everyone. Jeff Henba, PBA president, Jackson resident, 42 years. This is mainly about oversight, accountability, and leadership of, or lack thereof. I just want to clarify a statement the chief made about the animosity in the police department that was created by him 2 weeks ago when he started to show up in briefings, which he hasn't done in 15 years. And he started to tell the patrolmen how a public safety director will negatively impact the agency. That was not created by us. Having listened to Chief Coons, I would like to take the opportunity to remind the council and those in attendance today that he speaks only for himself and does not represent the will of the masses. The chief is on an island with less than 10% of the membership. If only everything could be decided with an over 90% majority, the world would be a much more peaceful place. I would like to elaborate on what President Rodriguez spoke to regarding the articles we endorsed. The tactics employed by the chief since this became public have been truly disappointing. The manner in which he cornered members of this agency in an attempt to solicit coerced signatures after making threats to the livelihood and specialty positions held by individuals within the agency highlights the manner in which he runs the agency. The fear-mongering and sky is falling if this passes narrative, he openly states, is detrimental to the day-to-day operations of the department and further justify the need for the public safety director position. But as previously stated, our issues with the impediment the chief has become to growth and progress within the agency are long-standing. To add a few new ones and reinforce what has already been said, here are some examples. You heard this already, but I'm going to say it again. Did you know the chief hasn't had a staff meeting with officers since August of 2015? The police department is managed through numerous daily emails. Did you know the police department has a much-needed SWAT team consisting of very highly deserving officers who train multiple times a year? However, the chief hasn't signed a policy for this team, which was sent to him in October of 2022. Did you know the chief was sent an updated towing ordinance for his review and signature in March of 2021? Still isn't signed. Did you know when our agency was staffed with 76 full-time officers, there were 4 officers assigned to our public schools full-time? We also had 4 officers assigned to the traffic safety unit with 1 sergeant directly supervising that unit and their needs. As of today, we have 112 officers with 2 officers assigned to our public schools, 3 officers assigned to the traffic safety unit, and no direct sergeant. Did you know the chief refuses to send officers to training classes if that particular officer doesn't write enough tickets? Chief, what is enough tickets since a quota is illegal? Did you know just a month ago that the chief attempted to use our contracted no leave days, which is allotted for a year for township events, weather-related events, on the week of the PBA's mini convention, which takes place annually the first week of March? He attempted to do this to alleviate overtime and to not allow members to go to this convention. Did you know the PBA SOA has had to file countless grievances against the chief these last several years because of him violating our collective bargaining agreement? The chief refuses to negotiate after a grievance is filed any kind of outcome that works for either party. So the PBA then has to bring the grievance to the township administration for a resolution. Did you know just last year, the township administration approved the chief to hire 8 new officers? Out of the 8 that were approved, only 4 were hired, of which only 2 graduated from the academy last week, leaving 6 approved hires on the table. The chief has not attempted to proactively hire, even though I personally heard him say that he would like to have 130 officers on staff. The town council administration, the last several years, has approved numerous hires to help staff this agency. Why is it not being fulfilled by the chief? Did you know the chief has ignored medical professional recommendations for certain gear officers can wear to help prevent or alleviate injuries to their backs, hips, etc.? The chief does not like how these exterior vest drop-down holsters look, so it requires an officer to submit a doctor's note in order to wear them. Within the last month, the new chief in Manchester approved new uniforms for men and women to include exterior vests because our officers presented to him the benefits of wearing these items, and he listened to his officers and approved them. Did you know that most times a suggestion is made by anyone in the rank and file, it is almost always shot down? Some examples are wearing exterior vests, showing tattoos, or allowing officers to grow beards for No Shave November, which we have officers here that have suffered and are battling cancer. Did you know morale is at an all-time low? Some causes for this low morale are inadequate staffing. Our staffing on day shift is set at a 6-man minimum, which hasn't changed in years. Afternoon shift is set at 6-man minimum, and the last 2 years, more officers on afternoon squads were allowed to take off than were required to work. Just last month, the chief raised the minimum manpower on our midnight shift from 5 officers to 6. It has been 5-man minimum for at least 17 years. Even though the population in the town has grown significantly, it's an officer safety issue and detrimental to the residents of Jackson. The inadequate staffing is being done to reduce overtime. Did you know since January of 2023, the chief has made 75 motor vehicle stops, however doesn't wear a body camera? Did you know in October of 2021, the chief was made aware of how many clerks and the undertaking of a redaction unit due to the implementation of mandatory body cameras? The chief waited until January of 2022, where 1 clerk was hired and who was behind from day 1. To date, there are currently 3 clerks in the unit with no direct supervisor. This unit is currently 8 months behind for attorney requests and 10 months behind for Ocean County prosecutors' requests. This is well beyond the legally established time limit. Did you know approximately 5 to 6 years ago, Great Adventure started to hire Ocean County sheriff's officers as well as Jackson officers every day to assist their security officers as needed. These are considered extra duty jobs. Every other extra duty job in Jackson are offered to Jackson officers first. If we can't fill them, then they will get assigned to an outside police agency. The chief has done nothing to fight for each job at Great Adventure for his officers. Maybe a simple phone call and discussion to Sheriff Mastronardi and the president of Great Adventure would help and show your officers that you care about their concerns or requests. I would be remiss if I did not note representatives from the Chiefs of Police Association in the audience. Ocean County has had many wonderful leaders in law enforcement, such as Sheriff Mastronardi, and I'd like to take this opportunity to support Chief Little of Toms River as he navigates difficult times. That said, Jackson Township is a unique jurisdiction with complex public safety needs, the nuisances of which are known to those who serve here. While we appreciate your attendance, we kindly request the position of the PBA and SOA are respected as only we speak for our officers. Thank you for your time, and we strongly encourage all members of the council to support this ordinance.
Thank you, sir.
Eleanor Hannum, Jackson, New Jersey. First, I'd like to comment on Ms. Kuhn's comment about the Economic Development Committee. PPP loans expired back in 2021, so I don't understand how publicly you can make that statement. And as far as our small businesses are concerned, if you are genuinely concerned, you would contact the landlords for our commercial businesses who are choosing not to negotiate in good faith. Thus, we are losing many of our businesses because they're closing, because those landlords are increasing their rent, but then not doing the same for another, accommodating another. When it comes to the Director of Public Safety, I find this very reminiscent of years gone by when George Gilmore changed Jackson Ordinance to ensure that Joey Torres, you know, the Patterson mayor who ended up in jail, would become the business administrator for Jackson Township. He reduced the fact that he really didn't have to have any college degree. I find that there are many, many conflicts with some members of this council when it comes to the relationship of the PBA union president. And as a member of 2 unions in my lifetime, I have never ever seen a vote from the floor in an informal union meeting by a raise of hands. All union votes are closed votes. They are never done in that way. And it is my understanding, I'm a resident of 60 years, so I have a lot of people in this town that I know, some being on the police force. So I am aware of what had happened. That is completely unacceptable, and that should not be accepted from a union president. I would also like to note how confidential internal affairs situation got leaked to these propaganda rags that are being spewed that are destroying people's lives. That is confidential information, and none of that should ever have been leaked. I find it very, very discouraging when we are going to, or members are looking to do this, to create this position, that they're going to be answerable to our business administrator, who already is named with 2 open lawsuits or 3 open lawsuits for harassment to do unethical things for their jobs. And I'm going to end with what I see. I have a master's in European history. What I am seeing from this board, who has increased the spending by $318,000 in 2 meetings for the residents of this town that are some barely making ends meet. I see attributes of a totalitarian government. What a totalitarian government does, or a dictator, first, they broadcast information. Then they control the media and the information that goes to the public. They silence their opponents. They use terror to speak out against them. And here, I see that being used throughout the Lakewood Scoop, the Lakewood News Network, the Shore News Network, the Asbury Park Press, and the voices of the residents of this town, their side, are not heard. Surveillance is used, as I have seen, by this mayor, where he plants spies, as he has done with my organization. And now, in a hypocritical move, they're all being appointed after they were forced to step down, and they were named in the DOJ lawsuit. But they can now serve on the planning board, and they can serve on the MUA, and you almost put the vice president of the coupon on your zoning board. So it's very questionable, very, very questionable, the ethics and integrity of some members that I'm looking at, especially with those that have open lawsuits. And I'm going to end with a question about the defunct Environmental Commission. Why? Why is it not why aren't they meeting? Why aren't they doing their job? Why aren't you filling those seats?
I'll get back to you, ma'am. Thank you.
We were told we would get answers at these meetings. That came out of your mouth as council president.
I have to check. I believe that's an administration.
Well,
And I'll have to
we
check.
have an administrator here. I mean, you're the one making all the appointments. You appointed yourself to all these boards and commissions. So did Morty. Don't know how that happened. I don't know if it was a ring or the 3 of you got together. That violates the Sunshine Law. But it's really quite interesting what I'm watching, this totalitarian government. So, Ms. Kuhn, you are in charge of all these appointments that you've had no problem doing in 3 meetings. So I want an answer.
The council president is not in charge of all appointments. It depends on the nature of the appointment. The mayor has certain appointment powers. The council has certain appointment powers. Depends on the particular position. She's not in charge of all of them.
Oh, so then what is the code?
I'd have to look. I don't know what the
So,
environmental.
so you're the town attorney, you don't know the code. You don't have it in front of you?
I don't.
Oh, that's interesting.
I
So
don't bring-
why are we paying you? Because right now, what I'm
No,
looking
no.
at is the expense account that you are defending Mr. Wall here and Raina for the Schmaltz whistleblower lawsuit, the harassment charges, and the firing of Dan Burke, also the lawsuit with the DPW Fred Razowitz. We are increasing our legal fees. I don't understand this. And then you almost turned around and had Frank Sadehi's business, Morgan Engineering, to do what was already done. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ray Catona, 11 Fordham Road. I really implore that our council do more research on this. I've heard tremendous accusations tonight, and I think instead of jumping the gun, it should be further researched. Mr. Mordecai, you said you interviewed half the police department. What about the other half? I think we need a little time to really look at the benefit or disbenefit. I personally don't have an opinion because I don't know enough. Well, what I heard tonight, I think will require a little bit more time to assess doing what you guys are looking to vote on. I'll be
So
quite
can I,
honest.
Council President, can I respond? I look forward over the next 2 weeks before the second reading to continuing to engage with the rest of our police force and making sure that my vote is reflective of what the police force wants.
I would greatly appreciate that, and I would like to
Absolutely.
get some more information on it myself. I mean,
you, sir.
it's obviously a serious condition, and I think it needs to be a little bit further explored. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Seeing no one else come forward, make a motion to close public session.
Second.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye, all in favor. Thank you.
Motion.
Have a great night, and everybody get home safe. Motion. Yeah.
Second?
All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor? Thank you.